Okay, 10,000 steps a day. You probably heard that number before, but where did it really come from? Is that from the science, from the research, or is it come from somewhere else? And does it have to be walking? Can you get your movement in something else, bicycling, whatever? The answer to that is definitely yes. It doesn't have to be walking. Walking is just an easy way to get your steps in. Actually, you don't need any equipment to do walking. You can walk pretty much wherever. As far as the number, that 10,000 steps, that was actually a marketing thing to sell a product. I believe it was a pedometer that you could track your steps with. And 10,000 sound like a nice number, and I think that just got repeated over time. That's not what the actual science says, the research. There again, the research is varied because let's face it, it's to put a pedometer or whatever tracking device on someone to measure their steps and this or that, isn't always as easy thing to do. But the actual number is probably more like about 7,500 to 8,500, somewhere in there is probably the sweet spot. And hey, if you get a little more than that, if you do get your 10,000 steps, not necessarily a bad thing, but let's break it down. So I mentioned before, you don't have to necessarily get your steps in if you're bicycling. A few years back, I worked with a man in a fitness studio. Every morning, he would go for bicycle rides. He got a racing bike, and I can't remember if it was 10 miles or 15 miles, but he would do that like clockwork every morning. Here in Florida, you have no problem doing that. The rest of the country, you're not going to be doing that in the winter time. But so if he put in that many miles, that much time riding his bike, does he need to get 10,000 steps in addition? No. Obviously, it's the movement that counts. And so let's kind of break down what actually happens in moving. And actually, let's break down what happens in walking and why walking is so ideal. As mentioned, you can walk pretty much everywhere. You don't need any equipment. And we've all been walking since 1 year old or however long. So we've been doing it our entire lives. We don't really have to think much about it. We don't have to be taught how to walk at this point. But let's kind of break down what actually happens with walking and why it's so good for us. Basically, the muscles. You're working your lower body. So as we step, our calf muscles here, back here, what they're doing, they're pumping our blood back up to the heart. So that's a good thing. So basically, it's make it easier on the heart by pumping it back up, towards the heart, but also get a huge amount of lymphatic fluid flow. So our lymphatic fluid, very important part of your immune system, but we don't have a pump like we do. Our heart pumps our blood. But the only thing that pumps our lymphatic fluid is movement. So we need to get movement throughout the day to get that lymphatic system working optimally. And that's a lot of what it does. But when you're walking, you're getting a mild to moderate loading of the muscles. Moderate depending on if you're going up and down hills or maybe you have heavier body weight. Obviously, that's more work. Same thing with the joints. You're getting mild to moderate loading of the joints. And that's a good thing. We do need to load our joints. Joints need movement too, and that keeps them healthy. So that's a good thing. Like I say, the lymphatic fluid flow, you can get that moving a number of different ways. If I'm on a bicycle and riding for an hour or however long, yes, obviously, the calves are working to pump that blood back up towards the heart. You're getting all that lymphatic flow. So there again, if you're on a bicycle, don't think you need to get all your steps in addition to your bicycling. You got your movement there. So any extra walking you do throughout the course of your normal day is a good thing. Let's say a lot of different ways to pump the blood back up towards the heart, to get movement. The movement stimulates your brain. They've shown pictures of your brain when walking. It's different than when you're just sitting down, sitting still. So there is activity going on in the brain, and that's a good thing that happens with walking and most likely with all movement. But how do we get more movement? And say you do live in a part of the country where the weather 6 months out of the year is you can't necessarily get outside easily. There's different ways of doing that. Here I've got a sand dune stepper, and you might have seen people doing the mini trampolines, doing The rebounding, well, you can do the rebounding on something like a sand dune stepper, and same thing. So obviously I'm getting a lot of movement here. You see how far my head's going up and down. So there again, we're pumping that blood and that lymphatic fluid back up towards our heart, which is a good thing, very healthy. We're getting movement, getting stimulation. In this case, we're getting stimulation of the eyes and the ears through the movement. That's a good thing for your balance and overall health as well. Vibration platform, whole body vibration platform. We can do various squats on the vibration platform, various stretches, and some people advise you just to stand straight up and down and get your lymphatic fluid this way. I've been using these for years. I bought my first vibration platform in 2008 and used it with clients for years. I personally wouldn't want to just stand up on one of these for 10 minutes straight. A lot of shaking of the brain, doesn't feel good, doesn't feel comfortable. I like doing shorter bursts, anywhere from 30 seconds on up to a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Get off, do something else, go back and forth. But I like to actually contract the muscles while I'm on a vibration platform and not just stand there. Yes, you are getting blood and lymphatic flow when you're standing on a vibration platform, and some people will tell you that you're getting bone density stimulation as well. I know this as far as the hip. When I'm in a bent position, those muscles pulling the bones of the hip are stimulating the muscles as well as that area of the bones, which provides some strengthening. I would rather see somebody do some movement, some squats, some reverse lunges or whatever, or just even, just hang out in ski position, or maybe slide slowly one side to the other. Another way you can get the same movement, kettlebell swings. Kettlebell swings are easy if you can stand upright. Okay, so it's pretty much total body movement. Again, you're gonna work primarily the lower body, but also the core and your back muscles, your lats. So you're getting a lot of lymphatic movement with that. Obviously, you're gonna burn a lot of calories, so kettlebell swings is a great way to get extra movement in. So yes, we should get a lot of steps in our day ideally, but if you're doing some of these other things in addition, or riding a bicycle or swimming or however, you're getting your movement in. Think of movement as opposed to just necessarily walking. But yes, I mean, we're going to get, throughout our normal day, we'll get a fair amount of walking in just by living. But doing these various things in addition, or even adding in some deep diaphragmatic breathing to help really get a lot of blood flow, lymphatic flow through your torso is a good thing. But there again, don't get stuck on that number of 10,000, which may seem daunting if you're not getting anywhere near that. But the studies have shown that even as little as 500 extra steps a day is beneficial, and obviously the more the better. But think of getting movement and not necessarily walking or steps.